Sarle.
Thank you for that awesome introduction. Thank you for cleaning the room from everybody who wanted to have beer. It's awesome. We're going to be talking about a topic which was called work less, do more. Before I start, I know this is being live streamed, so I just want to say hi to my wife and my kid, Sky, who was born on 8th of February, so just a few days ago, if you see me. And that's an important part of working less and doing more, is that you shouldn't divide your life into compartments like work, life, kids, family, hobbies. It's just life, and everything is united in everything. And that is one thing that I find very important when it comes to entrepreneurship. I'm also a mentor at a company called Cocoon, where we believe that any entrepreneurial problem behind it has a real human problem. So if you can't raise funding, or if you're too upset with something, there's something behind it that is really the problem. A problem at home with co-founder or something else. So that's why I love to explore these things. And today we're going to be talking about work and working less and doing more. So before we begin, what is work? Anybody who wants to say something from the audience, scream it out. What is work? Action? Okay. Yeah? It's very difficult to actually define what work is. And yet, we spend 51% of our lives working all the time. And very many people believe that these 51% are worse than the 49%. And I'm like, well, shouldn't that be the other way around? Shouldn't the majority of what you do in life be the most enjoyable part of your life? It's kind of weird when the less time that you spend is, it's more important there. The more time you spend on something, you should love it just as much as anything else. And that's when I started looking at the concept of work and going through history of how did we have this concept. And I went way back, way back, as far back as I could go, to the cave ages when definitely nobody had a 9-to-5 job. I was pretty convinced. And then I was looking at them and I was like, well, why did they do anything? Why did they hunt? And of course, the reason they hunted and they did things is very simple. They needed to survive. They needed to move on. They needed to make sure that their clan, themselves, individuals, many different parts of the world is slightly different, how they survived. Some were more individual societies, some clanned up in small groups, slightly larger groups in other places. But they definitely did not have the concept of work. The only time when we started having something like work was when we introduced slavery. And I was like, yes, great idea. I'm going to sit, do nothing, and then I'm going to tell other people to do something, and at the cost of their life. If they don't do it, I kill them. And if they do it, the surprising benefit or salary, funnily enough, salary, slavery, sounds kind of similar, I'm just going to give them food. And that worked for a while. It was somewhat efficient, building the pyramids and being out there. But then that didn't quite work for a lot of societies. But that was the first time when work was really used. But it was not the type of 9-to-5 salary jobs that we have today. That started happening with what I call advanced slavery. They were like, well, it doesn't always work when you just push people. They're not very efficient, especially when it comes to the military. You can't, take an army and tell them, well, if you don't fight, I'm going to kill you. So they're like, well, I'm going to get killed anyways on one side or another. So they're not going to be very efficient at doing their job. So that's when the Romans created, which is one of the origins of the word, the protection army of the salt road, the trade road of salt. And actually the word salary comes from that, right? You're not worth your salt. The salt is, people were getting paid for protecting the salt road. And that's where the word salary and wages, all of that comes from that concept. And this was the first time when in humanity we actually had a concept of a job in the military grade. And sometimes people were paid with food, housing and other things in, say, royal houses and things like that. But still, no job. Interesting, we've covered almost the whole of history of humanity already, and still no sign of a normal job. Because even a little bit further in society, we still didn't have any jobs. As far as 1800s, you used to be a watchmaker, a shoemaker, you had a vocation that usually had been passed through generations. You were a fourth generation shoemaker, farmer, you had a vocation. You were not doing it for the money, you were doing it for survival of your family. You had a purpose in life and you wanted to do something in order to simply survive and maybe become as good as possible in whatever it is you're doing and master the craft. There's very few people right now who are actually masters of their craft, especially with technology, and I think that's a little bit sad. But at the same time, there are good things about technology as well. So I'm not going to go too much into that, but that was the main thing until the Industrial Revolution, the second Industrial Revolution. Because before that, we never had a job. The only time we started having jobs is when we, as farmers and people, we needed to compete with factories. And people started introducing this idea of factories, and they were like, well, we're going to make it more efficient. We're going to introduce processes. We're going to introduce interesting mechanics of making things, and that will lower the cost. So if you're making cotton in a farm, and suddenly somebody is doing it in a factory, you simply can't compete price-wise. You shut down your farm, you go to work at that factory, you move to the city from the outskirts of the city, and what happens is your purpose is removed. Because now you don't have a purpose other than to get the dollars or the euros to be able to buy the bread. So now you don't have a direct purpose anymore. Now you have a job. And that was the beginning of what we now have as a job. The concept is only 100 years old, guys. It's not been there forever. So with Frederick Taylor, who introduced management, scientific management, he believed that the worker is lazy and therefore must be manipulated in one way or form to perform the job. Super advanced slavery. And that's when he gave them some money and said, look, if you do it well, I'll give you a little bit more money, but not so much more that it doesn't matter if you work better or not. I'm going to punish you if you don't do something well. And that's pretty much what we've been doing since. And the interesting thing about that is that in any language, if you look at it, the word work is negative. It's not a good thing, right? It has no good connotation. You're not like excited about the work that you do. Travail in French, trabajo. It comes from Latin, trepaliare, which basically means torture, right? That's work. German, Arbeit, right? That basically means, what was it? It wasn't torture, it was suffering. Rabota in Russian, right, comes from the word rab, which is slave, right? So basically, the Russians are not even hiding it. It is still slavery, right? Like, why hide the matter? We're still there. Labor, labore, darbas, similar words. It was supposed to be Estonian tur there, but basically, it's still the same. In any language, the concept of a job is a really bad thing. So then we wonder, well, why don't I enjoy my job? Well, kind of maybe because you're a robot in a society that treats you as a robot, and it's super, super, super advanced slavery. You just don't know about it. Because the word robot comes from rab in the Czech and Russian, which is slave, so it's automated slavery. So we are actually all a little bit like robots, unless there is another way. And I do believe that there is another way that doesn't require you to change your job. All you really have to do is change how you think about your job and how you treat your job and what do you do at your job. And that's what I mean by working less. That I feel that if you do that, you will feel better about your job. You will not necessarily work less hours because you will want to work more hours. And I feel that when that clicked in my mind, I stopped working. I don't think I've worked for a single second since I changed my mindset. And I'll tell you how I did that. There's a few things that I find very important for that change. First, I realized that I need to go back to having a vocation and craft. Speaking on stage. I love that. I love doing that. So I want to be better at it. I want to practice it. I want to re-listen to my speaking engagements and be like, when did I do or when did I say something not funny and everybody thought that was not good? I want to become better at it and improve it the whole time. I want to help people to figure things out in their lives and their meaning. So through that, it's a craft of talking to people, craft of sales and marketing. That's something I enjoy the most. So I chose it as a vocation. And therefore, it doesn't matter what title I have, who do I work for. I know that my true vocation is that, whatever else I'm doing. And it doesn't matter what labels the world puts on it. And more importantly, my good friend Carl taught me this distinction between purpose and meaning. And he said to me that there's two things. There's purpose, and that's like a hammer. The purpose of a hammer is to stick nails somewhere efficiently. But what's the meaning? So for me, that's a very distinct two things. Purpose is what you have as a human being, that skills that you have, the knowledge that you have, what you like to do in life. How can you apply it the best? What is your nail, right? If you're really good at sales, if you're really good at talking to people, it's more social kind of work. If you're really good at coding, being more introverted, analytical, maybe it's more that kind of work. But also, what's your meaning? And the meaning part is the key, because it doesn't have to be too spiritual or superficial. It's very simple things. Because why are you working? Are you only working to raise some money to be able to feed your family? Well, that's not going to be very motivating for you. You're going to get tired. You're going to hate your job. Meaning is something that does not have an end cycle, right? So for me, one of the meanings that I have in my work is to help other people find meaning in what they do, right? And that is very distinct from another meaning, which can be make $1 million. Or if you don't want monetary values, then earn a Nobel Prize, become a president, whatever it is that you want to do. The problem with those meanings is that once you achieve it, you will be depressed because you will not know what to do next. I know many friends who have made big exits, 100 million, 200 million, 1 billion, and they have become depressed because they didn't know what else to do, right? What am I going to do? I have all the money in the world, but my meaning was to make money. Now that I have money, what do I do with it? And then they start investing, they start doing all kinds of things, but that doesn't create this lasting meaning in their hearts. And that's very difficult to find, but once you start searching for it, you will inevitably find it. And with that, the important thing what that does to the concept of work or a job is that once you have that feeling, it no longer feels like work. Now I'm talking to you here, that's took me 2 days to travel. My kid is at home, unfortunately. I miss them dearly, right? But this is still not work because I enjoy being on stage. And it's very important for me to do this because this is my vocation and I love doing it. And I don't count how many hours I didn't sleep tonight, and I don't count how much travel it took, right? Because this is something I want to do. And the important thing is that even the difficult things become easy because you just enjoy it. But you have to have something else. You also have to understand how you work. How does your body work? Because the simple concept of the word work, the problem with that is that it's negative. And it doesn't have the positive angle. So the moment you take a break, you take a holiday, you relax. You think that's bad because you have to work. And if you don't work, it's bad. But you have to think about life and nature and how does it really work. Look at your heart. Imagine if your heart only had the beat and never had the break. All the time. It's just on pulse the whole time. Right? How long would you live for? Or if your heart was beating so fast with such short breaks, with like 200 beats per second, how long will you live for? My guess, not very long. Think of your breath. If you only was breathing in the whole time, your whole life is one big breath in and no breathe out, ever. That's not going to be a very pleasant thing. So when I think about work of my vocation, the off time is equally as important as the on time. Going to festivals, going to the nature, relaxing, playing computer games, and not feeling bad about it, because I know that I need this to recharge. I need the off time to have the on time. I need to sleep. I have an Oura ring, I track my sleep. I track many things, but that's one of the things I track. If I don't get my 7.5, 8, 9 hours, it doesn't matter that I'm going to sleep less and have more time to work, because I'm not going to be able to do the work as efficiently. If I don't know my peak time, when is the hour that I'm most in my peak? If I don't know that, I'm not going to be efficient. So it's the basics, the body, the mind, and the soul. If you don't take care of those three, no work will feel good because you'll be too tired to notice that it feels good, right? I stopped drinking, I eat well, I exercise every day, at least 7 minutes, and that has made my life so much better, and I enjoy my work because my vocation, my apologies. I enjoy it so much more because I have the energy to enjoy it so much more. And the important thing with that is that this energy that you will have inevitably, if you look at all these successful people, a lot of them are fit, a lot of them exercise, a lot of them do mindfulness, a lot of them do many things to have everything else in place in your life. So if you don't take care of your own basic body and your own basic home, your family, your relationships, how can you possibly expect to have any success in your work? Right? It's just not going to work out anyway if there's no balance. If something is out of place in one place, it will affect everything else. We even did an experiment with my wife of making our kitchen efficient. Just cleaning the kitchen, making sure everything is in the right place. It affected everything in our life. Right? We found some invoice we didn't pay in the cupboard somewhere on the bottom. That would have been a big problem in 3 months. We found things of like a stack of superfoods that was piled all over the place that we now organize in one location, and now we eat really well with those superfoods. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter if it's cleaning your house, having a good relationship. Whatever you optimize, everything else will be optimized as well. And most important, and for that I left the least amount of time, is responsibility. I feel that most people, when they do work or vocation, they don't take enough responsibility because they think, well, it's the CEO's job or the founder's job or the government's job. But I feel this is the holy grail to happiness, at least to my happiness, is that if you take full responsibility for your life, and I mean completely full responsibility, to the extreme where you say everything is my fault, everything. The company is going down and I'm just, a cleaner in the company, my fault, I didn't clean good enough, right? Everything. Because when you do that, it gives you the power to change anything. Whatever happens to you in life, you'll be like, well, that's my fault. I'm just going to change it. I'm going to make it better now. I'm not going to complain that the government is bad and the taxes are high and everything is falling apart and that Donald Trump is the president. I'm not going to complain about that. I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to move to a country that doesn't have those problems. I'm going to create a thing that is quite nice. I'm never going to visit England again. Things like that. You can take control with whatever happens to you. And that gives you so much power because then when bad things happen to you, you can do something about it. And when good things happen, you go like, well, I did that, right? Because a lot of people who blame and complain and whatever it is that they complain about, their family, their better half, their partner, their co-founder, the government, that means that when something good happens, they also don't take credit for it, unless they're a narcissist. Narcissists take credit for everything that's good and blame everyone for everything that's bad. Right? But in a normal case, people will also forget to take credit for the good things. They'll be like, oh, I just got lucky, right? But if you take responsibility, like, no, that's not luck. I worked for this, I did things, I improved my life, and things became better. How do you do that? That's a little bit up to you, because I think a lot of speakers will come on the stage and tell you, well, this is exactly how you do things. Step 1, step 2, step 3. And I don't believe it works that way. You have to find your own path. And that's annoying to say that, but I think the feelings and the concepts that I'm talking about will be a guiding stone to that and not a solution, right? Productivity. Everybody has to find their own system. Who uses to-do lists is better. Somebody is more feeling-based and just needs more creative space. Everybody is very different. No matter what book you read to, what speaker you listen to, you have to figure out your own path. And for me, the reason I'm here on this stage is not to give you knowledge, because that's very easy to do. I just say exactly the things that I know and I transfer it. And the most difficult thing that I'm trying to do, and it's very difficult, and I'm hoping that even one person will do something about it, is that to transfer wisdom. But I can't transfer my wisdom, because wisdom cannot be transferred at all. The only thing you can do from this talk or any talk is to try to create your own wisdom. To listen attentively to any speaker, even doesn't even have to be a speaker, anybody, and try to figure out what can I learn from this that's my own. What can be my own learnings from this? What can I do to improve my life based on what I just heard in my own way, not in his way, but in my way? And that is wisdom generation. And I think with that, it is really important to take responsibility for your life and try to make it better. So with that, I'm going to leave you with a quote. Because this, what I'm putting upon you, is very difficult to achieve and might take years. But my favorite philosopher once said, and I get teary eyes any moment I try to read this quote, so I apologize. But he said, it is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they're difficult. Thank you.
Thank you, Dmitri.
Thank you so much.